Hi friends, here's another quick video. This is like what I do before I go fishing, okay? And this is probably good for beginners, things to think about before you plan to go. Before I go on with this, I want to thank everyone for subscribing. I have over 1,000 subscribers now. It's pretty cool. It was a milestone for me to feel like I'm actually delivering something important. So that's terrific. As the weather changes, I think we'll be doing more inside kind of fly tying stuff, but we have a beautiful October day. I'm gonna maybe go out and just do a little bit more smallmouth fishing today. So here are the sort of steps I do, and particularly I like all my old guys following me net right now, and particularly as an old guy, some things you got to keep in mind. So the first thing is you know, where am I going to go fishing? And I have a few spots I normally fish, and I'm going to try something a little different today. So the first thing I do is I look on Google Maps and see some spots that might turn out to be, you know, reasonable, you know, that have good things. And I'm going to do a screenshot on here somewhere. I don't know how I'm going to do it. You know, like, you know how those guys point like this and they're never pointing at anything. So I don't know. We'll see if I can put something up here. So first you look at a Google map and you go, okay, that's a good place, and kind of strategize of where you're going to go in and where you're going to get out. In Michigan, if the river is considered navigable, which means you can float a 3-inch log down it, because all these laws were based on the old logging industry here. That means that once you're in the stream, it's legal for you to go up and down it. So if you have to find either a road crossing or some public land. You're supposed to stay off of the land though. Once you get out of the water, you're on your own there. But you can, if there's an obstruction, you can get up onto private property to go around that obstruction. So I try to look for oxbows and stuff where there's a curve, so I can hop in, do a little fishing, and then hop out, and it's a short walk back. I'm not a dummy. So the first thing you do is look at a map. Next thing, obviously, is the weather. Is the weather going to change at all? And after today, it's going to get cold. So I'm a fair weather fisherman. So that's kind of my plan. So then the next thing you want to think about, and I think a pretty important thing to think about, particularly if you're fishing alone, is to tell somebody where you're going to fish. And I have a couple different ways I do that. One is just going, hey honey, I'm going to be fishing at my regular spot, at Riverside Park or something like that. Just so that they know, my wife knows where I'm going to be. So if I don't show up for a day or two, she may actually call somebody to see if I've been found in Lake Erie or something. Otherwise, I'll tell them specifically where I'm going to be. The other nice thing is there's a feature on iPhones, and I'm sure that there's one on the Android world, it's called Find Your Phone and Find a Person. So we have that hooked up. I have that hooked up with my wife, so that if I'm out fishing and she doesn't know exactly where I am, she can actually look at it on her phone and see where I am. So if I don't show up, if I have Martha, if I have the big one, she'll know sort of where to collect the remains and do whatever she's going to do. But it's just a good thing to, one, let people know where you're going to go, and two, if you have this feature on your phone, use that. If not, the other thing is air tags. I keep one when I'm fishing. I have an air tag in my fishing bag, so that one, if somebody takes my fishing bag, I know where it is. But two, if something happens to me, somebody can find me. My wife has the connection to my air tag. So that's a super, super important thing. The next thing is looking at flows. I have an app on my phone, and if I weren't filming it, I would be holding it up right here showing you. There's a couple apps that just go into the USGS, United States Geological Survey stations, and there's water monitoring databases all over the country. One in particular is right kind of where I fish, and I'm able to see the stream height levels almost, I think it's about every 15 minutes they're posted. And they give you long-range geological data too, so you can see whether your stream is in a high point or a low point. There's certain levels at which I just don't fish anymore. I used to be happy fishing chest deep, and these streams are pretty fast moving. Now it's got to be about waist deep. I won't go much over that. Another old guy tip. So I look at that. That is super critical. The other thing that's starting to happen is many Trout Unlimited chapters now are sponsoring these things. Well, they used to be called mayflies up until very recently, but basically they're water monitoring stations. And if you have a local TU chapter, you can check with them, and they will show you the website where you can check that. So some of these minor streams may have a monitoring device on them, and these monitoring devices check for the height of the water, the clarity, a bunch of other stuff, pH, temperature, so you're not fishing in too hot of water if you're fishing for trout. If you're fishing for bass, I don't know how hot the water can be, but it can be pretty hot. So first I tell somebody where I'm going. I have my app on my phone tracking me, and I also look at my phone to see what the water levels are going to be like. The phone also will tell me the weather too. So I have all those things done sort of before I even go. The next thing I do is I get my gear together, and in my car, I wish, another thing, I'm sitting here, I should be by my car. I have in my car, and somebody suggested it on one of my last videos, is that you should always have, I have a t-shirt and a pair of these sort of nylon-y kind of pants that they stuff into like a bag about that size, just in case I fall in, and just in case it's cold, I can easily change out of my clothes and put these dry clothes on. And again, it doesn't have to be a fashion look at that point. So you should always have a spare set of clothes in your car before you leave. So those are kind of the basic things that are always there. So now let's take a look and see what I have, the rest of the stuff I have before I go out fishing. So I'm going to be smallmouth fishing. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm not going to go for hours and hours, so I'm just going to take my trusty boot foot waders that you can see have been fixed about 1,000,000 times, and I tend to buy new waders rather than buying one expensive pair of waders, and but I have these all sort of re-seamed up because they do leak periodically. So I have my waders. The next thing that's important is your rod, and I have my trusty, and I keep all my rods. I tend to use the same reel on a particular rod, so I love these cases that have a reel holder on them. They really just make life simpler for me, so I can put the rod and the reel all together in the same case. Okay, so I have my rod and my reel in there. I got these online. They're very, very inexpensive. They're like maybe $10 or something, and they're great. As I have trouble getting this back in there, they're really nice bags. They're very, very stiff all the way back to here, so they're quite safe for your gear. Inside here, let's see if I've stolen anything. I always keep just a few flies in there, my basic flies that I use, and some floatant, okay? And usually I have a little pair of hemostats in there, but I stole those for one of the other videos, nippers and hemostats. But that's usually in there also. The next thing I always have, and you've seen this before, is I have my wading belt. And I didn't really mention this a whole lot, but I have this wading staff, and I gotta say, this wading staff has gotta be 20 years old maybe. And it's one of these things that just, you know, snap into place. Greatest invention ever. I use this wading staff almost every time I fish now. It's a matter of it's not like I need it, but it gives me confidence to go places. So I have my wading staff and my belt. And then we get into the good stuff. Okay. Now, I fish with a bag. The reason, rather than a vest, I like the bag. And in fact, this is meant to be a waist bag. A waist, you know, like a fanny pack, but I just use this part, the sling part, and I wear it mostly behind me, and then whenever I need to use it, I can swing it around. I'm going to move my bag here for a minute, see if you can see it. There. And so inside my bag is basically way more almost equipment than I need. I have my tippet on the outside, and I have 3, 4, and 5X. That's 99% of the time that I'm doing anything. I have weeds. I have these hemostats, and they also have a like a scissor action on it, and they also have a barb flattening thing. These are, I think they're called Streamworks, but lots of companies make these. This is an absolute must-have. And I usually just use this, but I always keep a pair of nippers going just because I like having the nippers. It just makes it easier. Plus, there's a sharpening tool here, and I'll get into sharp hooks on another thing. Down here is my floatant, and I use all different kinds of floatant. This one I think is Scientific Anglers. So that's that. Inside this front flap, actually right in here, let's just go through the whole thing while I'm here. Just very quickly, these are a whole bunch of leaders that I have stuffed in here. So this is basically my leader section. And another super important tool is a thermometer. You should always take a thermometer with you. Very important. I check the temperature every time I fish, and it gives me a sense of how active the fish are going to be. And after a while, you get a feel for your particular stream and what those fish are doing. My bass, the place where I fish and the bass are they're not sensitive to temperature, but they're certainly more active at certain temperatures than others. So the first section here, and I'm going to see if I can open it up enough to show you what's going on here. I carry 2 boxes in here, and down here is I'm trying to lift it up, is just a foam thing, and these are the flies that I recently used, and they just kind of dry out there, and at the end of the season, they're all in the bottom. So I have just different boxes for different things. This side of the box are my dry flies that I use, and these are what are called Primoradians. I'm going to do a video on those soon. And some ants. And on this side are some of my quickie streamers. So this is my Huron, sort of my Huron River bag. I keep a little bag of these big streamers in there, kind of like Game Changer sort of streamers. That's for if I'm in an experimental mood. These, as you can see, that's labeled small. And here's another thing that's real important. I put my phone number on the back of all of these. I probably shouldn't have shown that on YouTube, but I did anyway. And these are all my little small, mostly nymphs, but some smaller other flies in there too. So that's my small flies. Okay, I don't need to show you that. there's a bunch of cool pockets and stuff in here for some other things, a few more leaders, and I did have, okay, well, we'll skip that for now. This one has a second pocket, and it has 2 more sets of flies. These are the flies I've been practicing with lately. This is that box of Temu flies that I picked up, and I'm just checking to see how well it works. The box is great, by the way, and the flies have been really done well. I recently bought a bunch of flies for the school I teach at from an American company, but when I talked to the guy, because I'm ordering, like, I think I ordered, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40 dozen flies from him. And I said, okay, where are your flies really tied? You know, are they tied in China? Are they tied in Thailand? And he said Kenya. So that's the new place where they're tied. And I looked at these flies and the flies he sells me, and I think these are also from Kenya. There's certain kind of hooks and stuff different places use, and you'll spot that. Another box I have is all nymphs on this side, and then again another bunch of bigger streamers on this side. Okay, this is not terribly important. Finally, sometimes I fish late, so you got to have a light. This will clip on my hat or even on here as I'm walking around. So that's super important to have your light. Aside from that, that's pretty much the game I fish with. But in my super bag, which I will bring up again, I have a pair of these gardening gloves that I sometimes, if I'm going to be in a place, if it's a little bit cold, I may use these. They're not very, they're really gardening gloves, so they don't keep you real warm, but it's a little bit nicer. But mainly if I'm doing some bushwhacking and I'm going to be grabbing things and pushing weeds apart, this just keeps, stuff off of me. Like poison ivy and things. I have a whole bunch of other boxes of flies. Just boxes and boxes of flies. These are just some more tiny flies in here. This is an Orvis box and it's not good at all. If I find that I need to get real deep sometimes, I do have one of these little things of split shot in there. I don't use it often, but sometimes I have to go back to the car and pull that out. Insect repellent, if it gets real bad. Again, I try not to use insect repellent. Another set of these hemostats, because I love these things. I could buy a million of them. These little Tupperware things, I always know what's in here because these are the most recent flies I've tied, and I haven't moved them to my box yet, but there'll be all kinds of crazy stuff in there usually. This is kind of my experimental thing, and I wish I could show you this, and I will try to show you this as much as I can. At the bottom of this, because I put my boots and everything in here, there's a whole pile of sand that's at the bottom of my bag here. Okay, extra light if I need it, stuff like that. Okay, just some extra fishing line if I get crazy. And then finally, the last thing I keep in here, believe it or not, this is a fly tying kit. This is the kit that I use when I go to schools and stuff, and I have 2 bags of these of 20 kits each. So when I go to schools and I teach fly fishing, The whole fly tying kit is in here. I'm going to do a video on that, so keep an eye on it. The whole thing, the whole kit, the vise and the tools and everything are under $5. So I keep one of these in here just in case I need to tie something on the shore. And then I keep an extra hat also in here just in case, even though I have about 300,000 hats. And that's pretty much it that's inside my bag. So if you're planning, so then once you got to where you're going and you're going to do it, you might want to text again your wife or spouse or friend or a colleague or whoever kind of keeps track of you. Especially if you're fishing alone, you want to let people know where you are. I've unfortunately heard enough stories of acquaintances of mine who have had heart attacks, broken legs. A very good friend of mine had a tree fall on him, of all things, and was in the woods, like I think overnight or the next day, until somebody finally, ran across him. It's good to let people know, So once you get to your spot, let someone know, hey, I'm at this park and I'm going to be fishing for the next couple hours, and then text them when you're done. After that, then come back and hang up your boots and have a nice dinner and get ready for another day of fishing. So I hope that was helpful. One of the other things, just one last thing I have to say, and I talk about this when I teach classes a lot, is one of the nice things about fly fishing is that it gets you outside. And I have to really work at this, because I'll start fishing and I'll just concentrate on the fishing. And you just have to, I really probably need something on my watch to say, stop for a minute, take a breath, and look around. And I mean, today is an amazingly beautiful autumn day. The trees are changing colors. The air is just crisp. It's just absolutely beautiful. And that's a big part of fly fishing, is just to enjoy your time out on the river. So with that, I'll say I went way longer again than I always want to. I can talk forever. So we'll see you again. Please, I love the comments. I try to respond to almost every comment. And let me know what you're doing. So how do you plan beforehand? And let me know your tips and tricks. I'd like this to be a community where we're all learning together. All right? We'll see you. Bye.